Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey kids, welcome to Grumpy Nostalgia, the Second Look Cinema Podcast, the show where we go back to that blockbuster new release wall of our memory, grab a copy off the shelf, pop it in the old VCR, and see what time has done to it. I'm Justin, that's Mike.
Habari Kila Mtu.
And we are here to help you navigate all those landmines littered down memory lane. So Mike, Season 2, Episode 1. Congratulations, we're through to a new season.
All right. Hey, can we go back to that sophomore jinx thing again? They talked about in the second podcast?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, actually.
Oh, good. Okay, well, we won't have one, right?
No. I think we're going to be as successful as the second season of True Detective, second season of Heroes, second season of Lost, maybe Pinkerton.
Maybe they
or maybe not.
Sequel to The Mask, possibly.
Oh, Mask 2. Break-In 2, Electric Boogaloo. Not quite as good. We're going to try to power through that, Mike. But it may be a little bit difficult this week.
This is not a good start.
Given this, now, the subject matter we've chosen has definitely been a challenge. It's going to hurt a little bit this week, gang. Should let you know that this week, Large Marge sent us, Mike, because this movie is the worst accident I ever seen. So without dancing around it too much, we're going to review the 1995 science fiction / comedy / adventure /
horror.
I think there's too many slash. I think there's too many slashes, Mike. I think that's kind of the problem. But we're going to be talking about Congo this week, Mike, from 1995.
Yes. Well, I did notice on the Prime, when I paid my 4 shillings to watch this trick, I noticed they classified it as science fiction / horror / suspense. And I'm a little dubious of this. I'm a little dubious of the suspense part, but I think the horror and sci-fi kind of came together nicely.
Yeah, the tone was kind of all over the place, and I think that's where I struggled a little bit. Yeah, but this one's gonna hurt, gang. And just me and Mike talked about this movie in preparation a few times, and we watched it and had a couple nondescript discussions since we talked about it, and we felt that in the interest of public safety and legal responsibility, we wanted to start the show with this following disclaimer. So if you'll forgive me for 1 second here. As pertaining to the unique and peculiar circumstance of this week's episode, Congo, the writers and performers of Grumpy Nostalgia are compelled to issue the following disclaimer. The Grumpy Nostalgia podcast and all associated entities cannot accept any legal responsibility for any potential illness, trauma, or general malaise incurred to the listening audience as a result of Congo. All those that choose to listen going forward do so under their own discretion. In the interest of public safety, Mike, we at Grumpy Nostalgia offer the following precautions. Do not watch Congo if you are pregnant or planning to become pregnant. Do not operate heavy machinery after watching Congo. Do not watch Congo near an open flame. Do not watch Congo if you have a family history of headaches, heart disease, monkey attacks, Joe Don Baker-related phobias, or you have an appreciation for good movies. If Congo is ingested, induce vomiting immediately, or induce less vomiting immediately as applicable. So Grumpy Nostalgia's first concern is public safety and cannot be held responsible if said precautions are disregarded or voided. Thank you, and enjoy the show.
Nice.
So we're free and clear here, Mike. So having said all that, let's get to it, Mike. So this was released on June 9th in 1995, quite a while back, 27 years by my count. It was directed by Frank Marshall, who is an extremely huge producer in Hollywood, over 150 films to his credit, including some big ones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Back to the Future. But occasionally he gets into the director's chair. He did, I think he did Alive and this movie, of course, and some other larger
Pretty Woman?
films. He did Pretty Woman, yeah.
Okay.
This was written by Michael Crichton, who we all know from Jurassic Park and several other sci-fi properties. I'll get to more about him later. He had the original story based on one of his lesser novels, but still pretty well received novel. But the screenplay was written by a guy named John Patrick Shanley, who, in addition to having an Oscar credit for Doubt and a Nobel Prize for Literature, Mike, he wrote Moonstruck and Joe versus the Volcano, which is a disregarded gem, but it's really kind of good. And then he did this movie.
Goodness.
So both ends of the spectrum, so to speak. But
right.
What was interesting? Go ahead.
I was going to ask you a quick question, but you're probably going to get to it. I was wondering how. Well, you'll get to it. I was going to say screenplay and book. I'm sure are vastly different. Not reading the book myself, I wouldn't know. But. You probably consumed it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I remember reading this in college. This was like I had read Jurassic Park before Jurassic Park was a thing. When it first came out, one of my evolutionary biology classes made us read this book, Jurassic Park, and I thought it was really interesting. And I kind of went into the library when those were a thing, and this university library, and grabbed 2 or 3 of his books, Sphere and Congo. I picked this one first, and I kind of read it in 2 days. It was just kind of a real page turner, especially for a science geek like me, science fiction geek. So it's not a great book, but the source material was more dramatic and scientific, and it kind of got turned into a soap opera here. But this movie had an interesting journey. I mentioned Michael Crichton. In addition to being one of the world's smartest men that ever lived, and award-winning author and a genius scientist, and a doctor, he was a film director, and he did Westworld and The Andromeda Strain, and I think A Runaway Train with Sean Connery. And he had a special kind of passion project kind of attached to this. He really liked the script and thought it would be a great movie. And since like 1980, he was trying to figure out a way to bring it to the screen, and he actually had the cooperation with Sean Connery. Sean Connery wanted to group with him and be on this to make this a movie. But the limitations with the special effects and all that kind of thing never really got up to a point where he actually, when he was collaborating with Steven Spielberg, when they were producing what became ER for NBC, they were sitting around one night, and Steven says, "Hey, do you got anything you've been working on?" He goes, "Well, I got this story about gorillas that speak sign language and like a jungle adventure, and I'm working on this weird thing about cloning dinosaurs." And then Spielberg says, "Oh, that sounds interesting," and then the rest is history. But they can never find a way to bring this to the screen until Jurassic Park came out, and it kind of proof of concept that you could take these sci-fi novels and adapt them. So this movie is commonly referred to as Jurassic Park, a slower, weirder cousin. It was kind of Paramount's attempt to kind of recreate the formula of bringing this Michael Crichton book to the screen with some special effects, and getting the big blockbuster out of it. Sadly, Mike, it fell a little short.
Would this movie have ever even been made without the success of Jurassic Park? Or was it kind of like Jurassic Park? Oh, we got to do Congo now, or it wouldn't have probably ever come to life, I guess.
Yeah, all the research that I've looked at says that that's pretty much it. It was just Hollywood trying to capture lightning in a bottle again, but they did a few things wrong. So I think the biggest part they did wrong was the cast. So Mike, you want to walk us through the cast? Maybe you can explain a little bit for us.
A little bit. I'm going to leave some of the names out of this movie just for for their legacy to be a little less untarnished. Let's say we have our main cast, who's Wendy Bird, and then we have the guy from Nip Tuck TV show.
Yeah.
You had the Ghostbusters guy. He has a really bad accent in this movie. And you have Dr. Frankenfurter from Transexylvania. He's got a Romanian accent in this movie, so that's a little off-putting.
He has several accents in this movie.
Yes, he does. You had Buford Pusser, who most people know him as Mitchell.
Of course we do.
I want to delve more into the side cast. Let's say the bit parts, as they say, and I want to go through some of these people because to me they were more important. And we'll kind of go in order of appearance. Let's go in order of appearance here. I want to go with the characters Moore and Boyd, played by a random lady, and Stuart Pankin, who you might know from not necessarily the news.
Yes,
such a weird little part they had. It almost seemed like they were supposed to be in the movie later on, but we're only showing them for like a minute, and they're like, "Ooh, wow, a talking monkey," and that's it. Really weird. You had the guy from you had the guy from Poltergeist, who is he will be famously known as he moved the cemetery but didn't move the bodies. Remember that guy?
Yeah,
he's in this movie. He's a school president, and he's very brief appearance, thankfully. Joey Pants, who most people know from being in The Matrix. He's in Sopranos. I liked him in Memento. He's probably one of the most annoying characters in this movie, but that's neither the point. He does make an appearance. And you had Adebisi from Oz. Never can remember this guy's name. He was in Lost also for a season or two. He always plays kind of a menacing guy.
Monster.
Yep. Yeah, and a fellow castmate with the Ghostbusters guy. I don't know, from Oz. Then you had this. Okay, this was a deep dive. This this guy was in the movie just for briefly. Some people in our audience might know him from being a meme. He was in George of the Jungle. He plays the guy who says, "Now's the time we throw our heads back and laugh." That guy. So if anybody gets that reference, kudos. Delroy Lindo, who I don't know if this was his first movie or not, but it's funny. He's the one British actor who's doing an African accent that actually sounds legit. He plays kind of an African general in this movie, and luckily for him, he appeared in Get Shorty after this, and a little bit better movie.
Yeah.
Big
fan of Sesame Cake, apparently.
Stop eating
we'll get
my
to that.
sesame
We'll get
cake.
They said that like twice.
One of my favorite actors, Bruce Campbell's in this movie. He's better known as Bubba Hotep. And love the part in this movie where he actually does the same scream that he does in Evil Dead, where it's like, oh my gosh, there they go. There he goes. Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah.
And Peter Jason, he's a lesser known actor, but if you ever watch a John Carpenter movie, you would see this guy and you would recognize him in this movie where he has a brief part where he's loading up a plane. Jimmy Buffett appears in this movie as a pilot for like 5 seconds. Have no idea why.
Yeah.
I'm about as mystified in why he was in this movie as to why he jumped out of the plane first. So, whatever. And
cheeseburger
in Paradise. And the last guy, he was in our last podcast. He's a Frank. He's Frank Welker, who does many voices, and for some reason he did voices in this movie too for one of the gorillas, and God bless him. There you go.
All right, well, that's an interesting take on the cast, Mike. I don't know if I would have went that way, but it was interesting. Let's get into it. A couple notes about your cast and some other things about the movie before we really dissect this boy. Bruce Campbell, who's in it, as you mentioned. God bless Bruce Campbell. I mean, the guy is awesome and everything. He was originally considered to play the role Peter Elliott, which was done by Dylan Walsh, the Nip Tuck guy. But he decided he wanted a smaller role. So,
good for him.
Well played, Bruce. Yeah. And then Hugh Grant and Robin Wright were offered the male and female leads respectively, and for some reason they turned it down. It's hard to understand. But yeah, this movie is infamous for its ridiculous amount of cross promotion. The Taco Bell Pepsi tie-ins. I remember when this movie came out, the Taco Bell meals. I can't think of anything more revolting than Taco Bell with Pepsi, but yeah, you got the Congo collector sets, you had the Congo Pepsi cans, really and just an egregious example.
Like you said in the last podcast, they had a tie-in of Godzilla also, so they really know how to pick the winners.
Pepsi really knows how to hitch its star. Awesome. So another couple of notes here. Misty Rosas is the actor that played Amy, the gorilla. Amy, Mike. She's an actress of smaller stature who has also been in several roles in The Mandalorian. She played the Nick Nolte voiced character in the first season of The Mandalorian, but she plays a lot of smaller roles. She's played the fish woman in the second season of The Mandalorian as well. The one that Baby Yoda ate all our eggs. So, yeah, just I thought that was interesting, but apparently not.
Yeah.
So we'll go to our first watch here. I remember I watched this. My first time was not in the theater, sadly. I think my wife, then girlfriend at the time, was still working at Blockbuster Video. I had, of course, graduated to bigger and better things. I left that behind. But one of the perks of working at Blockbuster is you could grab the new releases. So we had an odd weekend where we were together, and we rented this movie and Clueless. So that was our double feature for that Saturday night. I don't remember much about either one of those movies, but I remember watching this and thinking, wow, that was kind of dumb, but not bad. Because I'd known the source material, but I wasn't as critical back then. But I don't really, again, didn't make much of it at the time. Mike, do you remember the first time you got to watch this, Jim?
I watched it opening weekend, believe it or not.
All right. That a boy.
My wife and I, we were like you, we were girlfriend and boyfriend at the time. We were on a trip to the Mall of Americas up there in Bloomington, Minnesota. And they have a multiplex theater on the very top level of the mall. And I don't know if they still do, but back in '95, they had this really cool movie there. And they're like, what's the neater thing to do? And when you're visiting is to go see a movie at the Mall of America. So, of course, it's Congo, which I'd seen advertised everywhere and thought, wow, this movie might be pretty good. No. I remember
not so much.
I don't remember anything about the movie because it's something about being on a trip and watching a movie, you don't really remember it too well.
Yeah,
You,
it's kind of
you're,
overkill. Yeah.
yeah, and you already think, okay, and you think, oh, it's pretty good. And I remember three things about this movie, and that was Ernie Hudson's accent, Joey, Pants being terrible, all just one of the worst characters ever put on film, and gorillas being cut in half by lasers. So
Yeah.
other than that, I have no memory. I'm kind of like you. I was like, well, it was okay, it's all right.
Yeah.
But I remember just being a little disappointed because it wasn't the spectacle I thought it should be. If that makes any sense. The build up for this movie was not worth what came out on screen.
No, it's kind of at its best, it's a B movie, Mike, in that it'd be terrible. So, but anyway, so let's go back and let's review it and see what time has done to it, and see if our opinions have changed at least, Mike. So, as I mentioned, we're going to go back to 1995, Mike. In summer of 1995, you remember anything about the summer of 95, Mike?
Summer of 95.
I do.
Summer of 95. What's that?
Well, there's a few things going on. Of course, in the United States, we were in the middle of the OJ trial. That was the biggest thing going. And Michael Jordan had made his return back to the Bulls. So in the area of the country that I grew up, that was a reason to start living again.
Oh, the Panthers had their first training camp here in Rock Hill.
There you go.
They were a brand new NFL team, and they decided to come down here to our little town to practice. And that was fantastic. Yeah. So that was summer 95. Yes.
Yeah. Another interesting thing about 1995, if anybody remembers, adventurer Steve Fawcett crossed the Pacific in an air balloon, like a hot air balloon, apparently unaware that there are airplanes and jets. Everybody applauded this as some sort of great feat, but I mean, I think what you forget to realize is that the U.S. Coast Guard had to bail this guy out like 6 or 7 times.
Yeah.
I remember he kept, so it's a tremendous expense to the American taxpayer. But so he crossed in a balloon. So great.
And then he dies in the desert, like what, a few years later?
Yeah. So I don't know. he could have started a podcast and done something constructive with his life.
Exactly.
Right. So that was going on. NBC's Must See Thursday was the biggest thing going. All 5 shows on Thursday were in the top 5 in the Nielsen ratings, including ER, which is a Michael Crichton property. Windows 95 launched, Mike.
That makes sense.
And sadly, most U.S. companies still have Windows 95 installed on most of their computers. That wonderful operating system. And the average ticket price for a movie was $4.35, Mike. So that's probably what it cost you at Mall America to go see this. So that's where we're living in. So that kind of sets the stage. So, Mike, if you're ready, hit the button.
All right.
So the movie opens up like every other movie set in Africa with the Lion King soundtrack. The hi-ya, oh yeah stuff. But you get this scenic thing of these jeeps driving across the Serengeti, and then they kind of pull up to the base of, I think, Mount Mukoko, like Mukoko.
Yes. And
you see the Bruce Campbell-led team kind of unpacking all their gear and hiking up the mountain. And the assumption is that they're working for this I guess communication conglomerate run by Jodan Baker, the evil Jodan Baker. Mike, if you cut Jodan Baker, barbecue sauce comes out. Did you know that?
If you cut him, will he bleed? No, not really. He'll bleed out some
not really.
honey barbecue sauce.
So they cut back to the mountains of Houston. Now, if you notice, they cut back to Houston. There's these huge mountain ranges in the background of this giant media conglomerate. And you go into their control room. Yeah. It's basically an Ed Wood set. It's like there's like 2 big screen TVs and like a cardboard dash control panel. I know. And like Radio Shack parts lighting up.
You didn't mention it earlier, but was there a big budget for this movie, or was they kind of having to have some cutbacks?
Only 50.
On it?
Well, only $50 million.
Okay.
So at those, so comparatively speaking to other movies of the time, not that big.
Okay. Yeah,
maybe they saw something coming.
It showed. I mean, it really showed. I was kind of amazed that that a same movie company that has a Michael Crichton property that saw what Jurassic Park did would kind of just like say, well, we'll give you, kind of scrimp and save on it. And just kind of surprised me.
So back to the Doctor Who set. So then the control room back in Houston, and we get introduced to Laura Linney, and Laura Linney is the fiance of Bruce Campbell, and they set up this
Oh, don't say her name. It's just call her Wendy Bird. Don't drag her name in this movie. She's too good an actress.
Well, okay. So anyway, she sets up the camera and kind of Skypes in with the team, and then they're there to get these diamonds that are supposed to help with some sort of communication satellite. These very convoluted process. I didn't bother paying much attention here.
Why does it have to be? Why does it have to be a diamond from there? I mean, if this communication company's pockets are that deep, why couldn't they get like the Hope Diamond or the Kohinoor Diamond or something? I mean, why do they need a diamond from Mount Mukiko or whatever? And I never understood that. I mean, I know that was the whole plot revolves around them needing this diamond, which has technology that it'll be obsolete in 3 years anyway, according to Buford Pusser there.
Yeah. Well, it's easy, Mike, because Congo. So anyway, so they get this live video feed of the team getting taken out by these mysterious shadows, and then Joe Don Baker smashes a TV with his golf club, and Johnny on the spot puts it out with a fire extinguisher, kind of showing how practical she is. She's the hero, Mike. But so he throws a little temper tantrum and says, "We've got to get there. We've got to find a team, and we've got to find these diamonds." And he kind of very easily convinces her to grab a plane, actually borrow a plane, find a plane that's going that way, and kind of co-op it. So apparently, the richest cable conglomerate in the world can't afford a jet to the Congo, but so that kind of sets up the plot. And then we cut back to UC Berkeley, where we get introduced to Amy, the Lowland gorilla, who's the hero of the movie to some degree. She's not CGI. There was a lot of discussion about trying to make her CGI, but they could never quite pull it off. So they did have the genius of Stan Winston, but even with his particular talents, this is somebody in a suit, Mike, and you can never get past that, really. So the thing about Amy is she's well, first of all, before we get to meet Amy, the camera kind of slowly pans on the table to show like her on the Picture of Life magazine, back when that was a magazine, saying Prodigy, and then
they're playing Doom too.
Yeah, and then they also pan over I think 17 Taco Bell wrappers just to make sure they get the product placement in there. So Amy's.
Oh, by the way, Bruce Campbell was eating a Hershey bar. By the way,
just another tie-in. Thank you, Mike. Amy's this gorilla that's been taught sign language, and we open up with her like painting these images in the jungle. And all these images have like this picture of an eye, which is important for later, and I'll get to that if it matters. So her carekeeper is this Greg Brady type, Dylan Walsh, who might be the biggest whiner I've ever seen in film before, Mike. I don't think he had any line that wasn't a complaint or a neurotic whatever. But yeah, he's.
It reminded me. It reminded me of Matthew Broderick and Godzilla in a way. It's kind of like that pleading kind of, almost like it's Pat kind of whining.
Yeah, why are they putting parachutes on? I'm not doing that. I don't like
Yeah. He's not the hero we requested for this.
He's constantly wanting to go to Toshi's station to pick up some power converters. All right, so anyway, he packs up Amy because he's got to give a little presentation, a very sparsely populated presentation about this new technology they've invented, where they basically take a Game Boy gaming glove and hook it up to the monkey, and the monkey does sign language.
Where's Fred Savage?
Yeah, and the virtual reality interprets all the movements and translate that into a voice. So we've got a talking gorilla, Mike. And they made some odd choices with Amy, the gorilla. The little kid's voice was particularly creepy, especially the tickle me. I did not like that.
Did they? Was there like I'm kind of going to that tickle me part because was there a toy tie-in for this movie? Like were they selling plush little Amy dolls?
I don't know,
like
but I have to assume there's
tickle me Amy.
I have to assume there's like a pull the string that says pull the string
Yeah.
Amy that says all these
I
things,
couldn't remember.
as mentioned in the hit movie Congo. So he's giving this presentation about the technology and all that kind of thing, and then in the audience of this thing is this character played by Tim Curry, Herkimer Homolka, free of Ceausescu, now doing good. So he's in the audience, grinning menacingly with his giant choppers. And then after the presentation, he kind of goes up to Greg Brady and says, "Hey, I'm a philanthropist from Romania, and he wants to give this guy the opportunity to take Amy back to the jungle." And
because everything floats in Romania.
this is true. So, yeah, do you know Yakov Smirnoff turned down this role because he thought it was too stereotyped? So, all the while, Amy's been having these nightmares about missing the jungle. So they decided it would be a good idea to get her back, into the jungle. And so they get on a plane financed by Tim Curry, and sort of, and then in the mid-flight when they kind of get ready to go to Africa, they're kind of commandeered by Laura Linney, and they get on a plane and they team up and they go to Africa. And during the flight, Amy drinks a martini, Mike, which was, if you ever want to see a gorilla drink a martini in business class, this is the movie for you. And of course,
did you notice in the credits there were two guys? They actually had it mentioned in the credits as the martini illusion, and they had two guys that did it, and one of them I think was Ricky Jay, the magician.
Wow,
did you notice that?
No, I did not.
I didn't. It was so weird that they took two guys to plan that gag out or whatever it was on film.
Wow,
but I guess it was an actual magic trick that they were performing with that puppet, drinking a martini. Yeah. So it was really, really interesting.
Well, it worked.
I was looking for anything.
It worked. It made my curiosity of this movie disappear. So anyway, they land in Africa and they meet Joey Pants. He's the guy the guy that arranges everything. They met Ernie Hudson here, who plays like a mercenary, who's kind of their guide at this point, and he casually carjacks a plane, and he's one glib bastard, isn't he, Mike? Ernie Hudson.
This scene where they're in the back of the truck after they leave the airport, and he's doing that accent. He's talking to our main characters. I'm just looking at Tim Curry, looking at him, going, "Wow, your accent's worse than my Romanian accent." I'm just thinking in my head.
You get the feeling
what is Curry thinking right now?
You get the feeling that both those guys are in on the joke, right? But nobody else is.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, the second act of the movie is just them transferring planes. So once they get down in Africa, they get into like a small jungle runner type plane to go to the mountain there, and of course there's rebels that shoot them with these air to surface missiles, and then what I liked here was
flares.
So Laura Linney is Han Solo, right? So she opens up the door without affecting air pressure at all inside the plane, and like shoots these flares at these missiles. I'm not quite sure that's how those stingers work, but anyway, it was cool. And what I thought was interesting here, all the devices that Amy has collected to calm her down. Ernie Hudson gives her a cigar, which Amy immediately begins to smoke. Flawlessly. What I thought
right away
was funny here, Mike. I remember the first time I tried smoking anything. I coughed for like 17 weeks, but it was still worth it because smoking makes you look cool. So remember, kids, your parents are wrong. Smoking is cool. So at this point, they're under attack, and the pilots have bailed out. So as we mentioned, Jimmy Buffett. So they decide to parachute down. So there's a small team that kind of parachutes out of this empty plane. And if you ever wanted to see the guy from Ghostbusters jump out of an airplane with a monkey that smokes cigars, this is the movie for you. So they end up landing at the base of the mountain, and at this point, it's really just kind of a series of rock climbing and going through the treacherous African environment. There's a scene where they get attacked by hippopotamus, which I thought was interesting there. It's really kind of like a Shaka Zulu thing. At some point where they kind of set up a base camp and have to defend themselves from all the local wildlife. As it turns out, this Tim Curry character is not on the level, Mike. He's not a philanthropist. He's actually this like mercenary who's been hunting these diamonds in the lost city of Zinj, Mike.
Diamonds.
Diamonds. It's absolutely true. So so they end up
The
getting.
prophecy said so.
Yeah, so they come around the ruins of this ancient city, and it's really kind of a parallel to the King Solomon's Mine story, which I thought was funny because that's a Israeli legend, but it was translated through Egyptian hieroglyphics in this movie.
Oh yeah, and it's another. It was another Hollywood flop.
Yeah.
King Solomon's Mines with Richard Chamberlain.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, good call. So they stumble upon.
You left out. You left out two great
Did I?
scenes. I want us to go back
Okay.
during our little journey from the plane crash to the volcano.
All right, well, do them justice.
You left out
do them justice.
They shoot hippos, don't they? Scene where the hippos attack the little inflatable rafts.
Yeah.
And then my personal favorite was when they all start singing "California Dreaming" with the natives, and they all seem to know that song.
Yeah,
it was really cute.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was touching.
Oh,
it's probably the only
touching.
song they could afford the rights to. So
wow.
So they
for $50 million.
Yeah,
see that.
They should have sold more Taco Bell. So they stumble upon the city, and it's just littered with diamonds all over the ground, right? And when they
no, that's the best part. That's the best part when they first get there. The Tim Curry character goes in there, has him shine a light in 3 places in this temple.
Yeah.
And he doesn't see anything. He's like, "Oh no!" Like he gives up within 30 seconds. Yeah. Like, "Oh no, they're not here."
Yeah, he went all the way to Africa. Didn't stop looking.
shines a light on 3 alcoves. It's like, "Oh no!"
So
this can't be true.
So, and this is where the movie kind of all the loose ends, quote unquote, come together, Mike. It turns out that this city was abandoned, taken over by. It was set up to be guarded by this kind of mutant strain of apes. They bred these apes to be super violent and to protect their city, and the apes turned on them and had been living a peaceful existence until these guys kind of stumbled in to steal their diamonds. But it's what kind of comes to this dramatic conclusion where they start they find the remains of the dead crew. And any kind of emotion that was supposed to be felt by Laura Linney is quickly exhausted. Seeing the skeletal remains of Bruce Campbell would probably do that for me.
Wouldn't it be great if he was, instead of holding that little diamond, that he was actually holding the other half of that Hershey bar? Wouldn't that be fantastic?
Yeah, they could have got the Hershey logo in there one more time. But yeah, so so in the midst of his greed, Herkimer gets attacked by the gorillas and gets promptly dispatched. There's a lot of head crushing for about 15 minutes here, Mike. The apes kind of take out everybody. And then again, Laura...
I kind of like that part.
Yeah, that was good, seeing these guys get killed. I like that part a lot. And then it kind of comes to a conclusion where, again, Laura Linney becomes Han Solo. She takes one of the diamonds and puts it into this laser that she conveniently has been carrying the entire time. Just any old thing will do. And she kind of shoots her way out of it and kind of kills all these apes. Jane Goodall was somewhere screaming. And there's always a volcano in these kind of movies too, Mike. That's kind of the end there. What I liked here was like the casual deaths of some of the people in the crew, like this giant styrofoam rock fell on this guy and he didn't even move. He just looked at it fall on him. and the evil gorillas kind of run off like lemmings into the lava a lot of times.
The scenes where they jump into the lava was like, like they're belly flopping. It was awesome. It was like wee. There's a lava flow, guys. Here it comes.
It reminded me of those Norwegian death diving competitions. Those funny ones.
Oh yeah.
So unfortunately, at the end there, Dylan Walsh gets circled around by all these giant monkeys, and they decide, as opposed to all the ones which other victims they quickly dispatch, they decide to like hover over him for about 20 minutes, and then Amy comes down and scares off the monkeys with her child voice. And apparently the gorillas know sign language too, because she sign language at them very aggressively, and they kind of run away. The three principal characters manage to escape, and then as they do, Amy decides she wants to stay with the gorillas, and of course that's her story arc there. So I don't think that a Berkeley trained professor would let this valuable asset that they put all this time. I doubt that he had any kind of ownership of Amy, whatever. But yeah, he just lets Amy go in the mountains of the Congo, so she has her happy ending.
And he didn't even give her back her little teddy monkey or whatever.
Yeah.
And I want to know if Amy had like a teddy human,
A-
perhaps, that she carried around.
don't you mean Amy Mother? Amy Mother. Ugh.
Oh, no, stop.
It hurts so bad. So she goes off with the
And that
good gorillas.
yeah,
Yeah.
Which I don't know why they accepted her, because just like literally a couple hours earlier they were like, go away.
Yeah,
You know, like
yeah.
they had these ridiculously like expressions on these gorillas' faces
Yeah,
to
yeah.
make you empathize with them. Like gorillas don't have expressions. You know, that's
Yeah.
what it was like.
Well,
It was kind of like that. You know, it was just. I know
it's
who's this movie for? I'll get to that later.
it's because Congo. So
Don't say
the
that.
movie ends with Ernie and then Greg Brady and Wendy Bird getting in a hot air balloon again, and they float away. And
My favorite line in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite line in the movie. I hope the wind blows us somewhere good.
Yeah.
You're over hostile territory, perhaps drifting around a volcano that's still erupting, in places where like surface to air missiles are being shot at. Yeah, let's just drift and hope we don't go by those evil guerrilla groups again.
Yeah, of course.
Pun intended.
But then you get the swelling Lion King music in the end. Everything's good, and the movie's over, Mike. This was my favorite scene when the movie was over. Yikes! So this movie made my heart hurt a little bit, and I don't mean emotionally. I mean like physiologically, like chest pains. Like I had some restricted breathing at the end. I was just really disappointed, right?
That's the disclaimer.
Yeah, of course. So, but let's talk a little bit about the denouement, Mike, the aftermath. So, regardless of our criticism, this was a fairly successful movie. It made $24 million in its opening weekend, which is roughly about $50 million in today's dollars. So it ended up grossing $81 million, again, $170 million adjusted for inflation, in its domestic run, and about $180 million worldwide. So
No.
what I find interesting about this movie is everybody's seen this movie, but not everybody will admit to have seen this movie, Mike. But I read a lot of research online about how this movie isn't as bad as we thought it was, and how give it a chance. And I don't know how I feel about that assessment, but it's one of those movies that kind of screams it wants to become a cult classic, like we talked about earlier. But again,
Oh yeah.
I don't know if it's in that category or not, but it did run the gamut at the Academy Awards, Mike. It was nominated for all the major categories. I'm sorry, Razzies, Mike.
Thank you.
It was nominated for all the Razzies, and it wasn't even good enough to win those. Did not win any of the Razzies, Mike. I guess the big award here at the Kids' Choice Awards, Mike, it won for favorite animal star, and Amy wasn't even an animal. But that's the Blimp Award, Mike. In case you were curious what the Kids' Choice Awards were, that's the Blimp.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
a Blimp Award.
Okay. Any MTV awards? Any popcorn buckets?
No, it didn't even peg the meter on MTV's consciousness. So it's got to be really bad when something like MTV doesn't pay attention to you. So I mean, it just kind of came and went. Prior to this, you had the big juggernaut in the theaters was The Bridges of Madison County. I guess the adults were taking up the theater. They had some counter programming with Pocahontas, and then a week later, Batman Forever opened and kind of stole some of this movie's thunder. Batman Forever was the Val Kilmer foray in the Batman. Also, Joel Schumacher's first Batman movie.
The okay Joel Schumacher one.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
Nicole Kidman, right?
Tolerable.
Yeah, but it was a precursor of things to come. It was certainly dropped hints about how bad that franchise was headed, for sure. So
that's our next movie, kids.
Yeah, stay tuned. We're going to have to put some distance between that movie and this one for sure. I think we need to cleanse the palate with something good here. So so that's it, guys. And again, we're making fun of this movie, but again, we always preach that we treat these movies with the reverence they deserve, good or bad. These are just our take on them. Just because we don't like them means they are bad movies, but we happen to be right in this case. So, Mike, let's do our diligence and put it through the grumpy meter. Why don't you go first this week?
Oh, really? Okay. Well, you're gonna have to allow me some time here. As usual, I have notes that I wanted to get to that are just kind of need to come together here. My first thought was watching this was, who is this for? Obviously, the gorilla was kind of like a tug at the heartstrings. Kids, don't get me wrong, Jurassic Park has kids in it, and it has the dinosaurs. So you got that element of, teenagers and children may like this, but this movie had a little bit more graphic nature to it as far as the mutilated bodies, eyeballs, lasers, cutting gorillas in half. It was a little bit more violent than, you would think of a crowd pleasing for all ages kind of movie. And I guess that was my first thought was watching. It was like, there's no lovey-dovey. There's no romance between, Greg Brady and Wendy Bird.
Right.
Speaking of Greg, he's not very likable, as we kind of went over. He's whiny. Wendy Bird is not likable either. Like, she's working for an evil CEO who throws random outbursts, and she could have at least informed one other person in their party that, hey, there's a lot of instability with the geothermal. This volcano may go at any time. Yeah. She tells no one that in her party. It's like,
very unlikable.
I can't empathize with somebody like that. It really makes it hard. Yep. There's all kinds of fake greenery in the jungle. Like, if you look at it, it's obvious to me, at least, that I know they were filming in Costa Rica. It could have at least made it look a little bit more jungly, and they put in like plastic plants. You can see obvious scenes of fake flowers. That's why I asked about the budget. It's just amazing that how fake everything looked. Even the temple was kind of cheesy.
This whole movie was shot. It had the feel of being shot on a set. There's no real size or scale here. It's all claustrophobic. Yeah, right. And just so many plot holes that I wrote them down. I'm wondering why I even wrote them down now, because I kept wanting to go to the Rainforest Cafe because that actually seemed more realistic than parts of this movie. And when they first encounter the wild apes that are created by humans to guard the diamonds, apparently by Egyptians, I'm not sure. There's not a lot of exposition with them, and this is where I'll get back to the Michael Crichton thing. I imagine the Michael Crichton book, there probably was some telling of like how these apes evolved and became these killing machines, or why they existed for all these years in this volcano guarding diamonds. But there was nothing like that. It was just ape attack. Yeah. They are.
Kill, lasers. And I was like, okay.
Congo.
It was just, again, it's Congo. It was just disappointing. It's like I want to say nothing. There's a lot that happened, but I feel like nothing happened as far as just explaining what the hell was that.
Nope, no time.
Yeah, and when they first encounter the apes, why did they go to slow mo for that little shot? It looked so freaking cheap.
I literally thought that I was getting some sort of lag. The video was buffering because who uses that stop motion slow mo thing anymore?
I don't know. It just really cheapened it. It was like it reminded me of something you would see out of like some kind of foreign knockoff kind of movie. Yeah. And I think Ernie Hudson said it best when near the end where the monkeys had just finished attacking our Romanian friend. He says, "I don't know what to make of it." I thought that was the perfect. Yeah, that was the perfect tagline for the front of this box of the movie, for the
Congo.
DVD.
We don't know what to make of it.
Yeah.
Now you're onto something there. I think the problem with this movie is that the tone shifts all over the place. And that's usually a telltale sign of a poorly made or poorly crafted movie. It's like there's one scene where somebody's looking at an eyeball, and there's another scene where there's a stock audio burp from a monkey. As I pick one, where do you want to go with this?
And it wasn't as like wilder, roller coaster ride as Godzilla was, as far as the humor to seriousness and humor. Yeah, but it just, the tone was hard to follow. Right. Let's just say it just not there. Like I said with the Amazon description, it was not quite science fiction. And it wasn't quite horror, and it definitely damn wasn't suspenseful. No, so it's like it just didn't hit any of those marks. It didn't. I can imagine a kid watching this movie and going, just watching it, and then okay, and then going to watch cartoons at home and not even thinking about this stupid flick.
Yeah. So did you like it, Mike?
and why did the plane fly so low? I mean, obviously, they could have risen a little bit more in the atmosphere and gotten away from the Stinger surface-to-air missiles. Uh-huh. And why did they jump out of the plane? Laura Linney was just picking them off one by one with the flares. Yeah. No. Why did Jimmy Buffett jump out?
I don't know, Mike. I don't know. Quit asking me. Leave me alone. Can't you?
And I'm done.
Okay.
I'm done.
So you didn't like it?
One
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 star.
star.
Okay.
One star. When I watched it, two and a half possibly. Like I said, it was good summer filler, and I don't remember much about
Yeah.
it. Okay, this time, oh my gosh, this how did this happen?
Yeah.
How did this happen?
Okay. Well, I'm pretty much along the same lines as you. I think when I watched this the first time, probably like 3 out of 5. Just kind of a fun little adventure movie. Just kind of you know, nothing too substantial, but nothing horrible. Watching again, 25 years later, yeah, not good. Interesting. I have an interesting metric about how I gauge these movies, Mike. When I write the script after I've done all the research and put everything together, I generally like say it out loud or rehearse it in front of my dog. We have a small little uh, 8-month-old French bulldog puppy named Kingston, or known to his mother as Bubby Bubbington. But I kind of talk to him and just say what I'm going to say. And he's kind of like my test audience, just so I can articulate and get the cadence of the show right audibly. And even Kingston was looking at me like, I don't like this. he had this. My dog had this look on his face like, I don't like where Dad's going with this. But yeah, it just, I don't know. I kind of came full circle on it. I was really angry watching it, and then I just started to admire how dumb and how charmingly dumb it was. I don't think I'll ever watch it again unless I'm forced to, but it's just one of those things that it made me happy at the end to write about it and to do the show about it. So it's got to have some merit. And the people still like this movie. There's a lot of people in the course of doing my research. Gosh. People had, I saw a lot of articles about the underappreciated Congo kind of theme.
Oh.
And I'm like, what planet?
It had a 4.5-star user rating on Amazon Prime.
Well, that's the thing.
I was like, seriously? I can't. I mean, I know it's a user rating, and those are they usually they skew towards the more like it's kind of like the tomato meter.
Yeah.
Anything above like 70% is average, but
even Roger.
I was just shocked it was that high.
Even Roger Ebert gave us 3 out of 5. So it's just one of those things. It's you can't account for people's taste. And
Mayor Ebert,
yeah, Mayor Ebert.
Wait, he should be ruling New York, right? He's not supposed to be reviewing movies.
Check Godzilla. Go back to Godzilla last episode. Check it out. All right. So let's cleanse the palate, Mike. Let's talk about, as normal people, what we're currently watching. I'll go first. I've stumbled upon a pretty neat show on Amazon Prime called Outer Range. It's this neat little kind of mix between a film noir, western, sci-fi thing, which stars Josh Brolin and Lily Taylor. And he's a rancher in Wyoming, and he finds this kind of weird time portal in the middle of his field. And it's just got some interesting characters and interesting plot lines. I'm in the middle of it. It's kind of confusing. There's a lot of mystery to it, but I've been really hooked on it. So I would recommend Outer Range for anybody that wants a neat little sci-fi genre mashup. It's currently on Amazon Prime. Mike, are you watching anything now?
As usual, I watch old stuff and YouTube, and this is great. I stumbled upon a YouTube channel that not only will our audience love, but you'll love this one. It's a channel called It Was a Shit Show, but shit is spelled SH*T. This guy, he sounds like a good old Midwestern kind of fella, in his 20s through 40s. I'm not sure how old he is. But he does a deep dive into movies and how they were produced before they came to the screen. So he goes through, all the travails and drama that go behind the scenes of a movie, such as I'll watch one on The Exorcist he did and one on Back to the Future, and it tells you the whole story of it and how it got to screen, and it's really well done. This guy's done his homework, and surprised he doesn't have more subscribers, but I would highly recommend It Was a Shit Show.
Okay.
So look him up on YouTube.
Well, we'll send the weight of our audience his way. He should get 2 or 3 more subscribers any day now. Okay. Well, all right. So this one took a lot out of us, but before we go, we just want to kind of mention that we're still taking email candidates for people that want to sit in on our show and review some top 5 lists with us. We're getting ready to put some of those together. We put some really choice lists together. We'd love to get some people to participate in that and sit in with us. And if you've got some ideas for a top 5 list that you have that you'd like to present, certainly send those along. You can send us an email for said participation at nostalgiagrumps@gmail.com. And if you have questions or concerns or like to interface with us, so you can see show information and trailers shows and upcoming events, you can check us out on Grumpy Nostalgia on our Instagram page. We'd love to hear from you, so drop by and see how we're doing. So, Mike, anything else you want to say before we head out? Get in our air balloon and head off?
Let's see where the winds take us. No, I was interpreting the hieroglyphic notes I have here, and I've finally translated it. You know what it says?
What?
We are watching you.
Ooh.
We are watching you. Over and over again.
Ugly woman. Ugly. Michael. Terrible. All right, guys. So that's going to wrap it up. We want to thank everybody for listening. So for Mike James, this is Justin, and we will see you again